to Be Elite Pod. I'm Shawn Michael.
And I'm Party Johnnetty, and together we are the PodRockers.
The PodRockers are recording BEP live from our home elite studios to bring you, the PodRocker Nation, the very best in AEW wrestling commentary. And this week we are breaking down Fight for the Fallen, which took place Saturday, July 13th, 2019 at Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. All right, so we're going to jump right into this. We're going to get into Gorilla Position. And what Gorilla Position is, ladies and gentlemen, is when we give our general review and our BEP ratings by the number of Barber Shop Windows for the matches from Fight for the Fallen. So the very first match was part of the buy-in, and it was Sonny Kiss versus the Librarian, Peter Avalon. So Party Johnnetty, why don't you start us off in this first match for Gorilla Position?
Thank you very much, Shawn Michael. This was a fun opener of a match. I really enjoyed that Sonny Kiss dance entrance that he had, that choreographed entrance. That was crazy. The one thing I wanted to point out was a very interesting venue. It was kind of outdoors, kind of, I forget what you call those types of stadiums where it's kind of open, almost like a baseball stadium in a weird way. But they usually do concerts in that area right there for them. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Didn't realize the fact that, yeah, it's going to be really hot and humid because they're in Florida. And man, that's really tough. I don't know if anyone's ever listening to this that's run in humid weather. You basically want to die. So to wrestle in humid weather, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine it. But all these workers, especially with this match with Sonny and Peter, they both put on a terrific match. The triple flip handstand was pretty sweet that Sonny Kiss did. I didn't actually expect this match to go as fast as it did. Like, I felt like I was just getting into it, and then it was like, all right, it's over. That top rope split leg drop was pretty unique. Ouch, though. I don't know how much longer Sonny Kiss is going to be doing that because, man, that's got to just hurt. But overall, I gave it 3 barbershop windows.
Yeah, I thought the dance sequence at the beginning was, because like Sonny Kiss, like when you see that character, like you kind of like he puts it all out on Front Street. You kind of know what that character is.
Yeah. And
so seeing him dance, I'm pretty sure it was the Jacksonville Jaguars cheerleaders.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Which I thought was pretty clever. And I think their mascot was in the background too.
Yes, he was.
So some of the moves I liked, so there was a nice hurricanrana from Sonny. So I thought he had some really good skills in this match.
Yeah.
To me, it did start out a little slow. I'm not sure how much experience Peter Avalon has, but he definitely seemed to kind of be carrying the match for the most part. Like I thought he had some pretty good skills in this. Sonny, I think once he started getting into it, got a little bit more comfortable. With the Librarians, I know it's like a very love-hate kind of thing. I don't know if you watched the most recent Be the Elite where the female librarian was talking to the Young Bucks.
Yeah, Leva Bates, yes.
And she was telling them how, like, it's like, I've heard a lot of stuff and everybody loves this character, which I'm one of those people that love this character. But unfortunately, the thing I think they need to be careful with is the shushing.
Yeah.
We talked about that before. He only did it, I think, maybe 3 or 4 times at the very beginning. But I think you just, again, have to be very cautious with it. It definitely lends itself very good to getting their fingers caught up in something. I feel like a Peter Avalon and a Havoc match would be a really good match because we saw later in this show he was biting fingers. So Jimmy Havoc is definitely going to be his first shushing might lose that finger.
Yes.
Great chance. Reading sucks. That kind of made me giggle a little bit. But I thought at the end too, I thought the finish was a little weak. I thought like they started kind of getting into the groove of it. And then, like you said, all of a sudden Sonny's finisher happened. And I'm not really sure about it either. It seemed, again, like you said, I think that's going to probably not feel well in the next, in the long run. But I actually rated this pretty low. It was an okay for a buy-in first match, but I gave it a 1.5 barbershop windows.
Oh, yeah, totally understandable. I'll be completely honest. I feel a majority of the crowd probably felt that way. I feel like I'm getting into my trademark slogan. I expected more, right?
But just a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people felt that way with this. I know some people had criticisms about like, just get rid of the buy-in already. I don't think you should get rid of the buy-in. It's a fun little add-on to me, but yeah, I wanted more. I did want more, but after all, we look at the total length of this card, maybe it was a good thing that we didn't. So I probably rated it a little bit higher than I should have. But I think it was just that dance entrance that really got me.
So our next match, we have a tag team match. We have Britt Baker and Riho versus BEP Priestlye and Shoko Nakajima. So I will go ahead and start off with my gorilla position on this. I really like the tail spot from this. So Nakajima has like this very kind of like fox outfit, and I loved as she was going through Britt Baker's legs. Britt Baker grabs her tail and kind of pulls her back through. There's also an interesting missed tag. So Britt Baker went to the wrong corner.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if that was a work or if that was accidental. But either way, I really like that. That's something you don't really see in wrestling that much. And I think in this situation, these guys aren't tag partners. They're not really tag wrestlers to begin with. So I could see that being, if you're inexperienced, you could easily get, turned around and go to the wrong corner. So I like that either way. I like to see more of that kind of stuff because, again, it makes it feel like, whenever you watch wrestling, sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, that was a veteran move, or that was they have their inexperience showing. I really would like to see things like that come out because it just, again, gives that little bit more of realism and competition to it. I'm not going to lie. BEP Priestlye, is it B or Bree? I kept feeling like they said Bree.
B. Is it B? Yeah.
I really like her. Like I think I found like one of my new favorite characters. And I keep saying characters, but yeah, I love that she had this armbar to knee move. The other thing I thought was great when she pulled her partner over to tag her in, and we actually saw this later in the night too from other tag matches. And I don't feel like I've ever seen that before, where somebody's actually pulled their partner to the corner, got out of the ring, and tagged themselves in. I mean, I've seen blind tags before, but I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
In a few spots, B actually kind of looked a little bit like China. I don't know if you got any of those vibes or not, but it seemed just in a couple of turns and stuff, like she had just very kind of like China facial features, which I thought was pretty cool. And then Riho seemed to this was kind of one of the bad things I saw this, but it seemed like Riho seemed to telegraph that high spot off the turnbuckle when she jumped on. I think it was B that was on the kind of teetering the middle rope. She stood there for a long time, kind of looking for it. So I think the timing might have been a little bit off in this match. But then again, we're getting set up for a big B versus Britt match, which I think this would be a really good feud to see, kind of once we get into TNT and All Out and all those things. So I end up putting this one at a 3.25 Barber Shop Windows.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot to this. This is why I just enjoy doing this podcast with you, because of the stuff that you get to see with I mean, I'm not going to say non-wrestler eyes or wrestling fan eyes, because you are a fan, but you don't watch this stuff heavily inside and out. So when you see something like that with someone going, oh man, I went to the wrong corner, it totally makes sense to me now. I know, and I'll just confirm it in the notes when we get to the news section, but Britt Baker she suffered a concussion during this match.
Oh, shit.
And some believe that during that spot, she was actually kind of knocked loopy. And so that was just instinct. And she was like, oh, I'm in the wrong corner. But I really like that you've made it, you kind of Dave Meltzered it. You've made a story up behind the reason why she went that way. And that's pretty nice. This was also Nakajima's and Priestlye's debuts tonight at AEW, so that was pretty nice. And I'll be honest, I don't terribly know too much about them. I'm pretty sure Nakajima's in Tokyo Joshi Pro, and BEP Priestlye's in Stardom, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I just said. I don't know too much about them, so I'll do some research. Really enjoyed this match. We had a cool tag moment with Baker tagging and Priestlye tagging. Loved the hammering fists that were going on. There was that cool shoulder suplex. Basically, not too much more than what you said. I gave it a 3.75, so we're not that too far off, actually.
Nice. All right, so we will jump out of the buy-in and get to our very first match of Fight for the Fallen, and it was one I was super excited for. It was a 6-man tag match. We had Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and Joey Janela versus MJF, the Panda Heart, Sammy Guevara, and Shawn Spears. So, Party Johnnetty, give us your gorilla position on this.
Oh, man. First off, everyone, if you're listening to this and you're on Twitter, hashtag Panda Heart. Let's get Panda Heart going.
I'm waiting for it. We're going to hear at some point, because I can't remember what is like the best in the world, or like his tag that he said when he came out didn't fit him. We need him to be announced as the Panda Heart. We need to make that happen.
Exactly. I really enjoy that they always put Jimmy Havoc's weight in stones. Yeah. He comes out, he's 14 stone. I don't know what it is about that, but it makes me laugh. I love MJF once again. Ref. And the ref, he like points to his corner and then eye pokes. I forget who he eye poked, but he eye pokes someone. And then, that just got a huge pop. Wow. I did not expect the pop for Darby and Spears when they were both tagged in. I mean, whoa, that was awesome. I actually got goosebumps when I watched that and saw it. I loved Spears not getting too close to MJF when they were both on the outside turnbuckle. Like, Spears is almost halfway between the ropes because he doesn't want to get anywhere near MJF because he doesn't trust him. I liked that this match, Jimmy Havoc got some showcasing, because I know we kind of talked about that with the Fatal 4-Way where he didn't really get to show anything off. So this time around, we get to see a little bit more Jimmy Havoc. Really enjoyed the biting of the fingers thing, and I want to see more Jimmy Havoc. Speaking as well, Guevara looks a lot better in this match, including some of the crazy spots like the apron spot. He like, I wish this was the Guevara that we got instead of for the Double or Nothing show where it was just kind of, I didn't know what to expect. This was totally different. He looked great, man. He took a lot of the bumps. He took a lot of the big bumps.
Yes, he did.
But man, he looked good doing it. There was a crazy low turnbuckle suplex from Joey Janela on him too, and it was like, whoa, that was
I almost thought he like would have almost broke his neck. I think JR even mentioned something like that, because that's one of those that game of inches, like it was close, it seems.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And I gave this one a 3.75. Really enjoyed this match.
So pretty much kind of the same things you talked about, like the finger biting from Jimmy Havoc I thought was great. I mentioned I had the back suplex as well. I really like that Darby got like a real big pop. It doesn't seem like like we talked last time, his outfit needs to be upgraded again. I don't know if that's just kind of playing into his bit, but I know he had an interview too recently on YouTube guys that I want to watch, but I just like that he's getting that kind of that movement. He had a really cool arm drag off the top rope.
Oh yeah, man.
I love that when I don't remember which commentary it was. It wasn't JR. I don't remember which one of the other guys it was though, but when Joey Janela, they're talking about him, they mentioned that, how he prepared for this match was by getting into a real fist fight with a scumbag at a Blink-182 concert, which I find is like just great, like low key, like just shade towards that whole thing. Cause I know a lot of people, I can't remember the guy he got into the fist fight with.
That's Enzo Amore for everyone that's listening. Enzo from WWE, who's not in WWE anymore, who gets a lot of heat from a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know the whole backstory of anything. I just know that, like, I guess Janela went up to him, went to shake his hand. He thought he was a fan, and then was like a real dick to him, and then wanted to fight him. And so it's you gotta love, like, it's kind of that, like, any publicity is good publicity.
Oh yeah.
The Panda Heart, his run of high spots, I love that. But the thing that kind of hurt me a little bit was Darby having to take the pin on this.
Yeah.
He had that really great match at Fyter Fest. They got overshadowed because of the chair shot, and then in this he has to take the pin. But I really enjoyed this match. It felt like it had all the key elements to me when you have like a great wrestling match. So I gave it a 4.5 Barber Shop Windows.
Nice.
All right, so our next match, we get to see the CBO, Brandy Rhodes versus Allin. So Party Johnnetty, Give me your gorilla position for this match.
All right, so first off, I have to say I was surprised that Brandy actually used Detroit as her home location because it's not really a big secret around here. Brandy does not like Detroit. I remember going to a Monday Night Raw, and it was really terrible. And this isn't just me like crapping on Raw. This is me literally saying it took me a while to go back to a WWE event because I felt we wasted our money.
Oh, wow.
And it was a Stardust and Goldust match, actually, a tag team match. And during the break, like the fans were just shitting on the match because it wasn't good. And during commercial break, Cody gets on the mic and basically tells the fans to shut the hell up. And then he gets back in the ring and, he gets the fans all riled up. And later on Twitter, Brandy Rhodes took to saying, she's like, basically, there's a reason why I left this town and, blah, 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 just kind of shitting on Detroit. So I was like, whoa, you actually said you're from Detroit. I thought you didn't like it too much. So I wasn't expecting that. And I spent way too much time talking about that. I thought, Awesome Kong coming out was kind of cool. Brandy has definitely gotten better. I will give her that. I think she needs to continue to work and still go at it. And who knows? Is she going to be, the best female wrestler out there? Probably not. But don't take anything away from her. You got to give it to her. I know. I'm sure we can talk about this with the criticism as well. But anyway. It was a good match from Allie as well. She gave Brandy a good match, and that's part of it, right? Is that you have to have a good opponent to make you look good. If it's two crappy opponents, it looks like a crappy match. And Allie made this look like a great match. Aja Kong coming out, I absolutely loved. I popped for that. And she and Awesome Kong standing toe-to-toe with one another made me excited. It was sad that I was more excited about that moment than the match itself. But the match to me wasn't actually that bad of a match. I gave it a 2.75.
Nice. And it was Awesome Kong that took her name from Aja Kong, right? Like that was her inspiration. So we're going to get, I'm assuming we're setting up for Battles of the Kongs, which will be awesome, I think. Because those two I think that would just be an awesome match.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. No pun intended.
So I know when I saw this, I was seeing a lot of hate on Twitter for this match. I had actually read somebody tweeted that this set women's wrestling back 5 years.
Dear Lord. Which
I thought was a very, very extreme comment on the match. Was it the most amazing match on the card? No, but it was an okay match. I mean, you can definitely see that, Brandy's got some work to do. I think Allie's got some work to do, but it was an okay match. Love that Awesome Kong came out, getting to see her. Is she injured? It just doesn't seem like she's doing a lot of in-ring stuff right now. So I don't know if she's just kind of getting healthy or they're just kind of slowly trying to get her into the fold.
Yeah, I've heard of some back and forth, kind of both of those rumors that she was injured and she's just trying to, take it easy. But I've also heard that she's like, I'm feeling a little bit rusty, so I don't want to get back in. I don't know. Who knows? There's a possibility that maybe she's just like, yeah, I'm cool with just doing what we're doing now, so I'll wait on it.
The water spot I didn't quite get. So when Brandy went over and got a bottle of water and took a sip and then dumped it on him, maybe it's like they're just like, fuck, it's hot out here. Go grab a bottle of water real quick.
No, she does the water spot. It's kind of like her gimmick.
Oh, okay. I think I do love Kong though. Awesome Kong, seeing her like just grinning those teeth and just being like, I don't know. There's something about her I really enjoy. I've only seen her a little bit before AEW, but really excited to get more exposed to her. It did seem a little slow paced to me. There was a few things where like whenever Allie and Brandy were grappling, it definitely looked a little rough. Like you could definitely tell the hands weren't like gripped. It seemed very well. It just, it kind of like could see that it was, not, it kind of, pulled the curtain back a little bit. I think Allie's gimmick though, with her, like how she grits her teeth, like she just grits her teeth and pulls her hair back. Like Allie and Britt, I think are the two female wrestlers that I'm going to love the most.
Yeah.
Brandy had a good snap suplex, though. I thought that was a good move. And I do like that, she is she's part of the elite kind of thing. And, she's part of the corporation piece of this. And I do like that you at least got to see her tap. So, if in a technical sense, she lost the match, but the ref wasn't looking because of, and it wasn't like cheap interference either. That's one of the things I'm hoping to avoid with a lot of this is the cheap interference. So it was very much, the ref wasn't looking, so you didn't see it. But then, Brandy got the spear for the win. But I don't agree that this match set women's wrestling back 5 years. I think it was a good match, and I gave it 3 barbershop windows.
Yeah, nice. I that's an extreme comment. I think people just want to shit on Brandy. I know a lot of people don't like the whole idea of, hey, it's kind of like the corporation stuff again, and a lot of people want to kind of get away from that. And I don't think AEW needs that, but I mean, we'll see how this goes. Will it play out? Will it not? Will we see Brandy kind of just be like, you know what? No, I'm starting to wrestle more. Who knows? But give her
honestly,
a chance.
like when you looked at Double or Nothing, like we talked about Sammy Guevara, he looked really, really rough in that first match, and his second match, he looked really, really good. So
yeah,
there's something to be said about these wrestlers getting into their first big matches and getting some of that exposure, and there's got to be a lot of nerves going into that. And so her very next match, she could look amazing, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for. You got to give these these wrestlers a chance to do their thing.
Yeah, I agree.
So our next match was a triple threat tag team match, and the winner gets to advance to All Out for an opportunity at a first round bye in the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And so we have the Dark Order versus Angelico and Jack Evans versus Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. So I absolutely love Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. That's like when they came out, and they've already done this a couple times, but you see Jungle Boy, do a sit-up on top of Luchasaurus. He's spitting the water out. Yeah, absolutely loved it. And so as I was watching this, my son actually got to watch this with me. And so this is a little bit behind the curtain. This is mini Shawn Michael.
Oh, man.
I've been a little kind of like, should I let him start watching wrestling yet? Because what's going to happen is he's going to body slam the dog, and then the wife's going to, Mrs. Michaels is going to be like, no more wrestling in this house, and he's going to put me in a figure 4 because of it, and I have to tap out. I mean, he's only 3, and he can't tap out to a 3-year-old. But when he saw Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, his eyes lit up. He's like, it's the dinosaur man. And then after this match, that's all he cared about was where's the dinosaur man? So I feel like this is kind of, I don't know, this makes me feel like this is wrestling stuff. So I really, really enjoyed that. Whenever you had the Dark Order with the ear biting, I love JR's commentary on that where he said, hey ref, that's illegal, I promise you.
Yeah.
The hanging neckbreaker with the ref's help, I thought that was pretty sweet. Luchasaurus's, his athletic ability is amazing. He had that standing backflip.
Oh, yeah, man.
And then the Jungle Boy shooting star press. Just these guys, I want to see these guys in every event in a tag team match. I just really, really like their style. I was a little upset that they lost. I was kind of hoping that they would pull out the win on this, but the Dark Order makes sense that they won. Their fatality move, their finisher, was pretty sick in my opinion. But
yeah, man. Yeah.
I set this one up as a 3.25 barbershop windows.
Yeah, nice. This match was almost my favorite match actually of the night. I love the creepers. There's just something about that that's it makes me feel like a kid again. I know we kind of mentioned that last time. And I have to come out and say that I apologize if I've ever butchered Angelico's name, or basically people are just calling him Helico. And I guess it's the American English in me was just like Angelico. It's just easier to say it that way. And so I apologize, Angelico. And I know I think I've said that in the past, but I liked this match a lot. Luchasaurus to me stood out a lot. I was glad to finally get to see Evil Uno and Stu Grayson wrestle. That was kind of fun as well. It did make it predictable that they were going to win this, but it didn't take away from the spots. I felt like everyone got some good spots in too. Everyone got a good showcase. The one thing that I didn't like about this was the Marco stunt spot. And it made no sense. It makes no sense for me for baby faces to come out and run interference like that. And everyone obviously loves Jungle Boy and they love Luchasaurus. And if you are in independent wrestling, Marco Stunt has his own kind of following. And he was in Allin's Battle Royal, the over budget Battle Royal. And I understand him coming out with him kind of. I don't know what they plan on doing with that, but for him to run interference in the match, just like that took away for me. And I'm spending too much time in my regular gorilla position here talking about that because that's kind of the moments that I didn't like, the cheap heat part. But I also have to say with this match, you saw some tag team moves that you normally don't get to see on the big stage. And that was really cool to see all the different stuff that these guys do. I absolutely love it. Like the utilization of pushing the middle rope down so the guy falls through it. Oh, I loved it. And everything Luchasaurus did was great. Really loved Evil Order or Dark Order. And I keep calling him Evil Order. I gave it 4 Barbershop Windows.
Like it. Yeah, I'm kind of curious with the Marco stuff too, because I don't know if they're trying to do like those Russian dolls, like the big, middle, small kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't quite get that. The only thing I could think of is they kind of wanted to play up the ejection type thing because that was a couple times that happened throughout the night. So that's the only thing I can kind of think of. Well, our next match, we had Adam Page versus Superbad Kip Sabian. So Kip had a really good promo. I don't remember I think it was during the buy-in when he did this. And I kind of felt when coming into this, I was like, Adam Page is going to win this match. I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to lose, but
right
after that promo, and plus too, the only match that I've seen Kip Sabian in was that buy-in for Double or Nothing. So I'm like, this guy feels like I don't feel like he's on Adam Page's level, but after that promo, I'm like, okay, I can kind of get it. I love that they did a lot of playing on the knee injury of Adam Page. Mm-hmm. So, when he did that high spot off the top rope, he really was holding his knee, and Kip Sabian was working on his knee a lot. There was a interaction with a fan, which I don't. I feel like that was a work. I don't feel like that was something that just happened. But the fan's right in his face, and he just gives him a kiss.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. That fan, I have no clue. I don't know if that was a personal friend of someone's, because he was getting in the face of a lot of guys. I think Cody might have tried to slap him or something. And he just was he was a super fan, man. And seeing the kiss, I see that on the local level here, and that's one of my favorite moments too. Is there's a guy that I'll give him a shout out, Peter B. Beautiful, and some fans absolutely can't stand him, and they'll get in his face and start yelling at him, and he'll just kiss him, and it flips them out so bad. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen, and I was just like, oh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
I was dying at that, seeing him do that. So yeah, Kip Sabian earned some points in my book when he did the kiss.
There was the spot where Paige throws him out and they called it the British lawn dart when he power bombed him. And I'm not gonna lie, when he picked him up and was getting ready to throw him out, my heart kind of stopped for a second. Yeah, because I forgot that entrance was kind of more at ring level, and I thought he was gonna drop I don't know what that would be 20 feet at that point if it was in just normal rings height. Even though that wooden plank probably hurts like hell, but I was just like, okay. Whew.
Yeah, man.
And he sold it well with the twitching. It wasn't quite the Vince McMahon twitching that we've seen before, but it definitely was kind of something hit a nerve.
Yeah.
The other part that I liked about this, and I hope they keep playing this up, we talked about this last time, but there was the countdown of 16 seconds remaining, and that's where Paige wins the match with 16 or 13 seconds left. So I really like that urgency because, you hear there's 20 minutes in a match, and usually it's just okay, 20 minutes, whatever. But when you hear 5 minutes, and then 3 minutes, then 2 minutes, and everybody's still kind of in a good spot, you're like, well, shit, is this going to run to the wire? But it ended really well, I think, and I gave this a 3.75 Barbershop Windows.
Awesome. It was just some of the stuff that you didn't mention you pretty much mentioned a lot of what I was thinking. Those ouch on those apron spots.
Yeah.
I loved the moonsault to the outside and then Paige selling his knee as well. I also was scared for a second. I forgot that the ramp was like that. And so when he did that, I went, oh no, same thing. I love the top rope swinging neck breaker. That was nice. The dragon screw into the ropes on the bad leg. Really enjoyed that with the work with Kip Sabian. It was a good ending. It was general a good build up for the match. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to start going crazy right in the beginning. It was a nice slow build up, and then it started getting really crazy. And I gave it a 3.5, so not too far off. Like you said, I love the countdowns and stuff like that. And then a little bit of the after. I loved Jericho coming out as the creeper and beating up Paige. Holy crap, dude! He punched him, man. He busted him open hard way. His face was looking nasty, and I was glad to see that the refs had some medical gloves on after that. So.
I'm guessing somebody's been listening to the show. That's what they're like. The PodRockers said you gotta have gloves, so we're gonna bring out the official PodRockers gloves.
That's right. There's little things. That's right. You can get the PodRockers medical gloves.
So our next match was a late announcement match, but SoCal Uncensored versus the Lucha Brothers. So Party Johnnetty, why don't you go ahead and start this one off for us?
Oh man, great little promo open there. You can tell, even though SCU is supposed to play the heels in this, that the fans just love them too much.
Yeah.
They came out with the cool little Jacksonville Jaguars inspired clothing as well. Lucha Brothers look so damn good. I loved those samurai inspired outfits that they came out with. I mean, maybe it's the little kid in me, but I thought that was so awesome. And for whatever reason, I feel like those guys can get away with it. If it was like a bunch of white dudes, people would be yelling, culture appropriation. But the Lucha Brothers just seem to make it work. Like they have all these different styles of wrestling that you see. And so to me, like, it just works all together. I absolutely love those outfits. The crazy fun antics back and forth between Pentagon and Scorpio, that was awesome. Once again, why the interference? But I mean, in this, it makes more sense because even though SCU is loved by the fans, they're still the heels. So you expect Christopher Daniels to do this. And for the Marco stunt situation to happen pretty much, 2 matches before that really took away for it with me. I was kind of bummed about it. I was like, I'm just seeing the repeat. A lot of super kicks in this match. And I mean, that's always fun for me anyway. That monkey flip senton was awesome. It looked like there was a little bit of a botch there with Phoenix. Like he was going to run the ropes and then he was like, wait a minute. And then he took out Frankie Kazarian. I don't know if Frankie missed his cue or whatnot, but it didn't take too much away from the match. Overall, I gave it a 3.5, and I liked them pulling out the ladder at the end and calling the Bucks out.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, you get this, I'm guessing it'll be for the AAA tag team title, is the gist I was getting for that?
Yeah, I think so.
The one other thing, did I hear this right? Was their 91st match for the Lucha Brothers this year?
I'll be honest, I didn't hear that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, yeah, they're talking. And I had a tough time kind of hearing the audio on this. And a lot of times I'm kind of focusing more on the match than the commentary. But it just seemed like I thought I heard them talking about how much they worked throughout the year, and this was their 91st match. But I love the Lucha Brothers. Like each of these shows we got to see them, and they just come and show like what they've got. There was that like you said, the antics, the back and forth. That was a little bit too much for me. I did like seeing Chris Davis getting ejected. Thought that was kind of cool. It was good to see the Luchas get their first win in AEW. I think it's kind of been a long time coming. They lost to the Young Bucks and then they lost in that 6-man tag. So it was good to see them get that. And I also enjoyed them calling out the Young Bucks for a ladder match at All Out. But I gave this one a 3.5 of Barber Shop Windows.
Nice. I think that's the first one that we came in on the same barbershop window count for this episode.
So the next match, we get Kenny Omega versus Seaman. This was my 5-star match of the night. So I'll go ahead and give it up to you, Party Janela, to kind of give up what you thought about this match.
Oh, this was a fun match. Oh, man. Nice submission hold by Shima in the beginning there. Great knees throughout this whole damn match. Another knee spot with telling the story of the injured knee, kind of Shima hurting himself in the match, but still relentless with those knees. Great counter after counter after counter. Once again, those apron spots. Ouch. Loved the slaps back and forth between each other in the ring. I was actually surprised, but kind of relieved at the same time that there was no Moxley. You were expecting it, but at least like in this situation, it was kind of refreshing that he didn't come out.
I'm in the same boat. I feel like it's you do it once and you do it again. That's kind of where you leave it. If you do it too much, then it just kind of saturates it. So I kind of was in the same boat. I was surprised it didn't happen, but relieved.
Yeah. And that spot where Shima jumped off like the crowd area onto Kenny Omega, onto that little table where the bell sits. Oh my God. Loved it. I gave this 4 barbershop windows.
So we get a little bit of, it's not a match, but we get Jericho coming back out to do his appearance. So there's a couple things I thought was hilarious with this. The fact that he calls Jacksonville the white trash Riviera.
Yes.
Jackoffville was pretty good.
Jerksonville, and then he was like, "What Jackoffville? How about that?"
And I love when he was out there. He's like, "I'm the greatest of all time," right? And everybody kind of cheers. He's like, "Shut up!"
Yes.
But I feel like we've got this version of Jericho because he kind of talked about. It's like, "I gotta beat Hangman. I gotta beat Hangman." So what we're running into is midlife is Jericho, or midlife crisis is Jericho. This is definitely, the Jericho, he's like in his 40s. He's at that midlife crisis area. He's like, oh shit, like if I lose here, like it's not just the end of, AEW, which it would be. It'd be the end of Chris Jericho. So I thought it was kind of cool. I like seeing Hangman come back out. I like seeing the guys from the back come back out to separate them. So I was a little nervous about this spot because it was like Jericho will be here. So I was like, well, what's that going to be? Is it going to just kind of be cheesy or what's going to happen? And I thought it played really well. I'm curious if, maybe they should have rearranged some of these matches so this happened a little bit more mid of the card, but enjoyed it still nonetheless.
Oh, yeah, me too. I feel usually you get either a not so intense match before the main events, or you get something like this. And so that's probably the reason why they had this, because they're like, well, our main event's coming up, so we need something to cool the fans down so that we can build the excitement back up again. And you'll notice this when you start watching these more and more, is seeing some of that stuff. Either you'll get a match, and for the WWE, it used to be like, it was stereotypical, it was a woman's match. And the fans would call it, and I mean, I'm not saying this was just gradually what it was known as. It would be called the bathroom break. Oh, okay. So that it didn't matter who the match was, but because it was a lot of women's matches, it was just like, okay, this is the bathroom break spot, so I can go to the bathroom and then come back and get ready for the main event. And so really you get matches that might not be so important that sit in this spot, but I think it depends on how long. If the show is running long, then yeah, you might have like a cool down match, or you have one of these. If you have a short show, though, to me, I don't think that that's necessary. The fans are just usually on fire for the whole night. But yeah, this was fun. You got to see Adam Page come back out and fight again in that cool little separate. I love when that stuff happens, and then breaking through the barrier and fighting some more, and then they have to separate them. Saw Adam Page's face. Whoo, man.
He looked rough, yeah.
Oh, it looked rough. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And this just, I forgot how much I love heel Chris Jericho, and this really brought it out.
Yeah, I've talked to some people like, I don't think Chris Jericho's a good heel. I'm like, I think he's an amazing heel.
Oh, I think, yeah, me too.
Like, he's just the guy, like, I love that when he walks out, too, like, everybody's like, thank you, Jericho. He's like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, he just flips them all off.
He points out, he's like, sit down, fatty.
Yes, yeah. Hey, fatso. So good.
Like, that's why I love like the MJF characters and like that kind of Jericho, because that's like the character the gimmick I'd want to play, because you get to go out and you just get to be a jerk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You get to say the stuff that you can't say in normal life, and you get to amp it up. Oh, that's what makes them great.
And our final match of the night, it's our main event, and it's Cody and Dustin Rhodes, the Brotherhood, versus the Young Bucks. So, Party Jannetti, How'd you feel about this match?
All right, so I got to save this one. Actually, this is my 5-star match. Absolutely loved this. This is what I was expecting, and it totally hit almost every button for me. So this I'll explain a little bit more in my 5-star review.
Okay, I'll just go through a couple of mine. I liked the Brotherhood weight belts. I thought that was cool. I love the antics of the Young Bucks in this. You hear them talking about, oh man, this is too easy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the reversal of moves. So you saw, Dustin and Cody doing the super kick. You saw the Young Bucks doing the uppercut. I really think what would be cool if they wanted to do a storyline in the future would almost be like an elite civil war. Because this really felt like you've got your blood brother and you got your brother in arms kind of scenario, because Civil War is brothers fighting brothers kind of idea. Double sharpshooter into the double figure 4 was great. I was a little sad that the end promo was definitely cut short. That's probably something we can talk about a little bit later too. But I gave this one a 4-star, a 4 Barbershop Windows.
Awesome.
All right, so let's jump into our 5-star matchup for Fight for the Fall, and that's where you just mentioned Party Jannetti. Yours was the Cody, Dustin, and the Bucks match. So give us a little bit of your thoughts on that match.
Yeah, I mean, basically kind of what you just said. It had everything for me. It was, you had that great vignette build up right there, and Dustin saying he's gonna power slam their souls. Basically, it was just it was fun, and I didn't know what I had an expectation for this, and it pretty much hit everything on those expectations. Loved, like you said, them stealing each other's moves, the cockiness of the Bucks. Oh man, just the back and forth. It really showcased just some great talent. I loved the arm work spot with Matt, his left arm, and then them just trying to take it apart. Oh gosh, man, everything. I know once again that might be someone who says, well, it's a typical Bucks match, but I don't know. It didn't feel like too much of a typical Bucks match. It was different besides, the super kicks and whatnot. So yeah, I wish the promo wasn't cut short because that had a good build up, but I understand too. So, but all in all, I gave it a 4.5. Really enjoyed it, and suggest people go watch it while you still can.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I feel like when they ended it kind of leaves this story open-ended still, even though I think the promo probably would have kind of finalized it.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm not sure where it's going to go after that. But yeah, of the limited amount of Bucks matches I've seen, this one seemed a little bit more grounded. It didn't seem as high-paced and as many high spots. But the thing I got out of this too is Dustin can still work, and I feel like he should still be. I know a lot of people are saying like this might be his last match to retire. It doesn't seem like it, at least unless they were going to do that in that promo. But I hope to see him come back like in that tag team tournament or just even on singles.
Oh, I know, man. I know. If anything, and it's obviously it's up to him, but this between his WWE like revitalization run and this, like I really enjoy watching him work.
And what I had for my 5-star rating match was the Kenny Omega and CIMA match. So what I enjoyed about this, it felt very fast paced. A lot of stuff you kind of mentioned. There's a lot of knee shots. There's a lot of counters. The fans in the crowd, though, like we're talking, like it seemed like this is where they're really pushing that. This arena is like really hot, very humid, and if you looked, a lot of the fans were fanning themselves.
Yeah,
and to kind of tack back onto the Bucks match, it seemed like the crowd had kind of died down mid match. That match was a 60-minute time limit. This was a pretty long pay-per-view. It felt like it was over 4 hours, counting the buy-in. Yeah, so man. I kind of feel like this, the Kenny Omega and CIMA match, fans were still into it, but I think kind of starting to get wore down from the night. But there was that ring bell spot, like you said. That's one that kind of made me like, oh god, because that's a real table. It's you're like that something cracked for sure. And then the crowd chanting, "You killed Kenny," that was a great call.
Yes.
And the total on that one, I gave that a 4.25 Barbershop Windows.
Nice.
So great gorilla position segment. So why don't we jump into kind of talking about the heat of the outdoors, our main event. And so this week's main event question, Party Jannetti I know we like to be outdoors. We like to have that sun glistening off our skin because we like to get those real tans. But I want to know, how do you feel about outdoor wrestling events?
Oh man, so it's a back and forth, right? Like it's a cool idea. I always enjoyed seeing the wrestling rings in the baseball stadiums and whatnot. You kind of got that with a lot of the territory days, and it's just a cool look, and it like just reminds you of summer and how you could just watch a wrestling show in the middle of a stadium, an outdoor stadium. But then on the other hand, though, too, there's a couple of things that you lose with that. You lose acoustics, and as weird as that sounds, you realize that when you're in an open stadium or whatever, just an open field, like a lot of stuff that I see, a lot of wrestling doesn't happen in stadiums. It happens outside just in general. So you don't have any of that surrounding, or the surrounding stuff that you do have is very limited. And so the acoustics just aren't there. So when you see, or you see a really powerful spot happening, a power move or something, and a guy getting slammed on the mat, you expect that echo to like just go throughout the building. Whereas you don't really get that. The sound just basically travels upwards. So it doesn't seem as impactful. So that's kind of the downside with those outdoor shows, especially in the situations where it's really hot out, and for WWE, for instance, the WrestleManias outdoors with in New York, well, really New Jersey, but it's March or it's the beginning of April, and that's cold time still. And so it's like, how many people really want to be outdoors when it's cold? So if I had to choose, to be honest, I would rather choose an indoor show anytime. But I mean, the idea of it's cool. It's something a little bit different. I like seeing all the different venues. That's changing it up's always nice too. So it's nice to see something like that when it's outdoors. But overall, I'm an indoor guy.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, I like the novelty of it. Like, this looked like a different show. Just how like the ramp coming to the ring was different. You know, the setup of the crowd was different. But I always think deeper into that too. It's like, okay, well, the crowd is obviously uncomfortable because it's super hot. It's humid. So what's the safety of the wrestlers in the ring? You know, you're sweating more. You know, is there these high spots? Is it more dangerous? Because I mean, it just takes a slip of the foot and like bad things can happen.
All right.
So there's those concerns that you have involved with that too. But I'm kind of, like I said, I think I'm in the same boat. I would want to be sitting comfortably watching these matches because I've been to like arenas for like football games or hockey, and it still gets warm in there at times. So I would imagine at a wrestling event, it still feels warm. But I can only imagine being outside, like it says, like 90 degrees and humid, and you're uncomfortable. If it's a 4-hour event and you got to have the crowd into it, like you're just going to be tired towards the end of it, and that's going to show.
Sure.
I think that kind of showed in this pay-per-view as well. But yeah, I would agree with you too. I'd rather be sitting in a stadium comfortable than out in the door sweating. Because, you know, if you've ever been to like a San Diego Comic-Con, some people don't realize that they need to wear deodorant. The PodRockers always wear deodorant.
Exactly.
We always rock that because we want to smell like that vanilla sweetness. That's what that's behind the scenes, everybody. We like to have that vanilla deodorant. That's us.
That's right.
It's nice and sweet. But not a lot of people do, and you'll realize that when it gets hot, you'll know that person around you who doesn't like that vanilla deodorant.
That's definitely right. They need to invest in some of those misters, like when you go to Universal Studios or Disney World and you're waiting in line. They have that mist going on you when it's too hot out. Get some of that in the stadium.
Well, why don't we jump into it's hot out? Let's jump into a little cheap heat. So this segment, it might get us a little heat, so that's why we call it cheap heat. So the PodRockers cheap heat segment is what we didn't like about Fight for the Fallen. So Party Jannetti, what are some of your gripes about Fight for the Fallen?
Oh man, so I think it's no surprise the interference when it's not needed. I usually try to keep an open mind with stuff. Especially when it comes towards just wrestling in general, because I like all styles and I like all different types. But there's some things that's just, I feel, need to continue to make sense. I never feel like it's very rare where I feel that a babyface needs to interfere. And that Marco Stunt thing just really was too much for me, and I didn't like that. And if you're gonna have the interference, only do it once in the show, not when it's every other match basically. So wasn't too happy with that. Another thing, it was a long show, and it just, I don't know, the production, the timing, there's timing issues that they need to work on. And that's something that it'll come to them eventually. So I'm not too worried about that. That's just me kind of being a little bit picky. It was like, I don't know. I felt a lot of the stuff went fast for me, but then again, I was like, what? Some of it, like the buy-in, the Sonny kiss finish that happened to me, it seemed way too quick. And then you get the situation where you can't finish off the end of the match saying, you're one of the best tag teams we've ever wrestled. And then, okay, we got time's up.
Kind of like the Oscars, like, oh, we're getting played off stage.
That's exactly what it felt like. Yep. So those were my biggest cheap heat moments for this show.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, tagging on to what you said about the show. I kind of wonder if there's just too many matches.
Yeah.
It felt like earlier this week, about like 5 days before the show, we were at about like 5 or 6 matches. I was like, that seems about fair. You have one in the buy-in and then the other one's in the actual event. But then they added a couple more. We ended up with 9 total.
That's just crazy, man.
Yeah, which is fine. But again, like you talk about, this day and age, a lot of people don't have 4.5 hours to invest in, an event.
Yeah, right.
Especially if I know they're talking pay-per-views will be quarterly or something like that. So it might be okay. But, if you're doing, these things, you got 2-hour shows every week. And then if you want to do a pay-per-view that month, it's a 4-hour show, 4.5 hour. Maybe you cut, the buy-in to just 1 match in a half hour and kind of tighten that number of matches a little bit. Because, that promo at the end with the Bucks, I feel like that was kind of what was leading up to this whole thing. 'Cause that's the match that they focused on for the most part. And if you're running into where your final match is getting cut down like that, you're kind of in a rough spot. But I kind of felt the same way. The interference, the only thing I kind of like about it is that they're leaving a lot of this more up to like the referee's discretion is the way they're calling it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having somebody jump in and punch somebody, it's like, oh, ding, 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 match over, other person wins. It's more of a, oh, no, you're ejected. Get out of here. You make sure everybody's okay. Okay, resume the match. Because I kind of want to see the actual matches happening. But some of my cheap heat stuff, one thing I'm a little nervous about, it kind of goes with the corporate idea too, but playing into the elite getting everything. We had Brandy in her match and she won, which I know a lot of people were saying is like, oh, well, I guess if you're in the elite, you're going to win. And then Kip Sabian kind of the same thing on Paige where he's like, just because you're part of the elite, you get everything and everybody in the elite gets everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind that if the story fits, but it's definitely too premature to get that into the storylines now.
I agree with you.
I guess it was probably kind of with your acoustics talk, the audio at Daly's place, it was a little tough to hear at home. So whenever the announcers was talking about like 10 minutes remaining, it was really hard to catch that.
Yeah,
so,
right.
When they did that at Fyter Fest, like I was really invested in it, but here it was just, you almost had to be like, wait, what'd they say? Oh, I bet it was like 10 minutes, or I bet they said something about time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've kind of had this other complaint about other things, but I felt like there was a lot of Death Valley drivers and super kicks in this. I understand like you have a lot of moves that are the same. It's not like the Young Bucks, that's their gimmick. Like I get that, but it felt like every match had a super kick, or like every other match had a Death Valley driver, which it's fine. And I understand. I mean, it's like I think somebody yelled at me one time about like, well, the drop kicks used to be a certain person's thing, but the super kick always felt like that's a finisher move for the Heartbreak Kid kind of thing, and now it's just kind of a bypass type thing, which is fine. But it's one of those things. It's kind of like can we get a little more variety? I will say though. Yeah. AEW.
That's like the joke with them saying, sorry to cut you off, but it's like, hey, welcome to the Indies, kid, because it's full of super kicks and all of these. Nice. So, yeah, I understand that.
I will say AEW seems like the matches do have variety, but there is a couple of these things that they kind of, everybody seems to have that in their bag of tricks.
Yeah.
The cold open was a bit more bland compared to Fyter Fest, which was surprising to me because I think Fight for the Fallen was the thing they had planned for sure, and Fyter Fest kind of fell in their lap.
Yeah, right.
So I kind of felt like that was a little like, I was hoping more for that. But I do love, and I hope they keep doing this, is that at the end of each of those cold opens, they say, welcome to the show, which, again, is probably more of like, welcome to the show, like that you're going to see. But to me, that has the connotation of like baseball. And like the show is like when you've made it. And they're saying that like AEW is the show and welcome to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And the only last thing, this is, again, you have, technical difficulties, but
oh, yes.
the closed caption popped on in the buy-in for me during the Riho tag match.
Yeah, me too.
And I saw tons of people be like, how do I turn this closed caption off?
Yeah, it took up like half the screen, and part of it was like all these weird symbols and whatnot. Yeah, it was a big oops there. I forgot about that, but yeah, you're right.
But I mean, it did stop like after a few minutes, so it wasn't the worst thing, but it definitely takes you out of it a little bit. But those are a couple of my cheap eats.
Nice.
All right, so this is a section like we kind of put people down a little bit, but we're going to bring you back up with our mark moment. So let's get our mark on the BEP Mark Moment segment, where we talk about the moments from Fight for the Fallen that made us mark out. And so a couple of mine, Daly's Place, I did love the setup. I love the entrance was right there next to the ring. I love that it was, you had this bowl type thing. So it was like a concert. Everybody's kind of facing it, but on the stage you had some more people.
Yeah, right.
The librarians coming out to no music, I thought was very clever. I think they did that last time too, but I didn't catch it. But
yeah, right. No, you're right.
I do want to see a lot more random tag groups. So we had the MJF and Shawn Spears kind of tagging, it reminded me a lot of, whenever you watch like Major League Baseball, there's the American League and the National League, but they do interleague play every now and then. And it's always really weird to see like, the Chicago White Sox taking on the Florida Marlins, and you're like, or the Miami Marlins. You're like, well, these guys never play each other. It just looks really weird, but it's really cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There was kind of going into the matches when Jimmy Havoc and Darby Allin and Joey Janela were in that tag match. They all wanted to be tagged in, which I just think showed the emotion and the caringness that they had.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do this a lot in other things, and I'm not sure if it's, I want to lean on you on this, but they were talking, I think, about, I don't know if it was Joey Janela or who it was, but they talked about where they were trained. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be a cool thing to bring into this, because it's they're trying to make this more like sports. And
yeah, right.
In football and basketball, they're like, oh, this person came from this college. So I think kind of showing where they came and trained from would be kind of neat.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think they did it with like Frankie Kazarian. I know Jim Ross mentioned it too. I always like hearing that, like their background with that, who trained him and whatnot. That I think that's a good idea. What you mentioned there.
Time limit, we talked about that before, just gives that urgency. And then the ejections. I like seeing those ejections where the match isn't ending on the interference. They're just kind of moving the match along and kicking the guys out. So those are a few of my mark moments. Party Johnnetty, what were yours?
Oh man, Luchasaurus, basically that whole match. I marked out a lot. I marked out big time with Aja Kong and Awesome Kong. Kind of already mentioned all this stuff in my regular gorilla position moments, but that knee spot by Shima as well, I just marked out big time on that one too. But yeah, that was basically it. I felt it was a fun little card. I enjoyed it, and but there was I got goosebumps in certain spots, man. Just really, really enjoyed when that happens to me. I love seeing that with wrestling.
All right, so let's jump into our BEP Elite 5. So it's time for the BEP Elite 5, where the PodRockers rank the wrestlers of AEW. So Party Johnnetty, how are you ranking AEW wrestlers this week?
All right. Here we go. I'm actually breaking up some tag teams here. I'm not putting them in one spot. I felt that a lot of these guys deserve these spots on their own. So in fifth place, Jericho for me, because Jericho, even though he didn't have a match, he still basically kind of stole the show. Comes out, beats up Adam Page, then comes out, calls him Jack Offville and Jerksonville and all those hilarious names. Fatso, Shut Up. I absolutely loved it. And fourth, I have Cody. Cody coming out, throwing out the biceps and making poor Nick Jackson feel a little inept there. Can't shoulder block him well. Third, Dustin Rhodes, because we got to see him showcase work with new newer style tag teams, something that you didn't get so much in WWE. And I'm sure some people out there will probably argue with me on this, but it was nice to see him work on stuff with a lot of high flyers and whatnot. So I really loved that. In second place, Matt Jackson, just because I thought his work was really good in the ring. And then on top of that, being able to sell that shoulder, his left shoulder, and his arm there. And number one, Nick Jackson gets a spot for me. Man, he was just on with his kicks. He was on with his connections and everything. I mean, maybe there was one botch spot, but I can't really recall it. But really impressed me. And that was my top 5.
Great top 5. So for my top 5, you talked about Goosebumps, and when Darby Allin, when the crowd was chanting for him, just got me going. So that's why I put him on my number 5.
Nice.
Sammy Guevara, the Panda Heart, I feel like he kind of rose from the ashes a little bit in this and showed us what he's got, so I put him at number 4. Kenny Omega, love that match. I put him at number 3. I thought he was able to really showcase himself in this match, so I really enjoyed it. You know, they mentioned in this the pay-per-view that he hasn't really wrestled in the U.S. a lot. So I think a lot of people kind of like me are just starting to get exposed to him. So I really like seeing him get to actually do that against another great guy that a lot of people are just starting to get to be exposed to, Sema. Number 2, Dustin Rhodes. Felt like it's like he's still got it. Like he's been in the business for 30 some years, and I feel like he could probably be there for 30 more. And my number 1 is, midlife crisis Jericho. Like I love this version. Jericho. I just want to see him dive into this, like, basically, what was the movie with Clint Eastwood? Like, get off my lawn, you kids. Like that's the Jericho I want to see.
Yeah. Gran Torino Jericho. Yeah. Oh man.
All right, so what we like to do too is who doesn't love workers who are on the kind of the lower side or underdogs, and we want to put them over. So that's why we have this put them over segment. And Party Johnnetty, I talked about it earlier. Seeing the glistening in my kid's eye as he watched this, I want to see, and I'm making a tag team that I want to put over is the Boy and his Dinosaur, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I think these are guys that I love their interaction. Their tag team is great too. And I love the idea of, I never had like a bigger brother or anything like that. So whenever I see those kind of relationships, it kind of pulls at some heartstrings that just like, oh man, like that. Like I just really love that. So that's why for my put him over, I want to put over the Boy and his Dinosaur.
Awesome. I can't really go different from you. I actually agree. That's mine as well. And that's not just me being cheap and bowing out of this. Luchasaurus, especially, I felt like, man, he really kind of got that MVP moment of the evening just to get that spotlight on him. And I think more people need to check him out.
All right, so we're coming to a close here. So let's talk about a little bit of the under the ring news. So, Party Johnnetty, I know you went and scoured the internet to find us some news. So what did you find for this week's In the Ring news?
All right, so there's really no surprise here, but they were able to raise $150,000 for Fight for the Fallen, which is pretty awesome. I believe it was $110,000 came from the fans, pretty much. And then the rest of the 40,000 was between basically all the guys from Being the Elite. So that's pretty cool. We got 2 injuries on this card. We got Britt Baker, as I previously mentioned, suffered a concussion mid-match. And unfortunately, apparently, MJF suffered an elbow injury in his match as well. He had to supposedly take off a couple of different bookings and some of the other shows that he's a part of. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it's not too terribly long. Don't like to see that kind of thing. Up next, we have Tony Khan saying that there's more information coming out about their TNT show at All Out. We should get all of the information then. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's rumor and an innuendo that I hear is it's going to be the first Wednesday in October.
Yeah, right. That's what it sounds like. This almost feels like it's the worst kept secret. They supposedly originally they wanted to go Tuesday nights, and then we only know that because of their trademark that they applied for, Tuesday Night Dynamite, and then they recently applied for Wednesday Night Dynamite instead too. So they have both of the trademarks out there. But yeah, it sounds like it's going to be the first Wednesday of October. So, we'll see though.
About that Dynamite. So whenever we talked about doing like our kind of our wrestling podcast that we're going to do, where we basically would do promos and stuff like that, we talked about like, okay, we got to have like a wrestling night thing. And I looked to be like, well, what would be a good name? I was like, well, there was Monday Night Nitro. So like, what's some, like I went to thesaurus.com, typed in Nitro and found Dynamite. I'm like, Wednesday Night Dynamite. That'd be awesome. Do you think that that's what they did?
Quite possibly.
I hope it's like they come out of left field and it's not that. Like they're just like trolling everybody with that. But it'd be okay, I guess. But I would just want a really cool, like, something that doesn't tie back to the TNT WCW days.
Yeah. I don't know. Nothing else has come out really, unless they're gonna play this. Hey, we're gonna use the name first and then apply for the trademark type of thing. So. Who knows? Last but not least, there's rumors of an AEW video game coming soon. So that'll be pretty cool. Then rumors on top of rumors is that it's the same company. They go by a different name now. I forget what name they go by, but Aki or AKI, depending on who you talk to, might be the ones to help put out the game. And if that sounds familiar to you, they were the ones behind the awesome WCW and WWF Nintendo 64 games.
Oh, nice.
So if that really happens, I'm going to be psyched.
I've had thoughts of so I don't know how you play wrestling games, but I'm always the kind of guy that I want to create my own wrestler and take him to the top.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And there was like a SmackDown game, I think that was pretty decent with that, but I always feel like any of the new ones, it feels like you're watching a story that they've put you in. You don't feel like very sandboxy. Mm-hmm. So I feel like what they always need to do, like I don't know if you've ever played MLB The Show. What they do is you create a character, you create a baseball player, and you work your way through the minors. And so you gain skills, you put them into whatever you want, you get better, you play games, you kind of learn the game as you progress through the minors up to the majors. I don't know why they don't do that with a wrestling game. You start out, you get into training, you train how to be a wrestler, then you're doing these indie shows and you're working your way up to your first AEW contract. And you just progress as this character. You evolve your gimmick and everything as you go. But I don't feel like they really cater to that too much, but I always thought that would be like that would get my $60 down super quick.
So WWE does do something similar like that, except you start out with NXT and then you make your way up into the main roster. Now,
I've watched some real plays on that, and they do, but you'll be like, oh, you're in the Royal Rumble, but if you lose the Royal Rumble, you have to replay it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like they've tried tweaking it throughout the years. I never really enjoyed WWE's, hey, you're in the NXT and then you move up type of stuff. I never really enjoy the 2K gameplay with WWE, to be honest with you. And I might get a lot of flack for that, but I don't know. I'm old school in the way that I really enjoy Fire Pro Wrestling for the PS4. And I enjoy basically all the stuff for Nintendo 64, all the old THQ games. So, the whole idea of, hey, taking that, and it's almost like Guitar Hero was kind of like that too. You start off small and then you work your way through the big venues.
Oh, it's yeah.
Kind of like the what you'd expect. So who knows? Who knows what we'll get?
Well, I know we got some breaking kayfabe news. So kayfabe. I'll get it right someday, I guess. But what culture you kind of point that's had 10 growing pains AEW is already having. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to poke through a few of these. So their number 10, they had pay-per-view for pay-per-view's sake. Which to me, I mean, like these last two I feel are more trial runs for TNT. That's why they made them free. That's why they wanted to get eyeballs on it. But to me, if they're doing this right, it's just kind of gradually, like you said, doing 6 or 5 pay-per-views a year. Let's see. Number 9, they had unnecessary pre-shows. We talked about that a little bit, I guess, where if it's, maybe tightening up that the buy-in a little bit to one match and maybe just a little bit of promos.
Yeah.
And stop me on any of these if you kind of have any big thoughts on them. Number 8, indie or big time is the way they're saying this. So I guess the question is if they're indie or they're big time. I don't know if I agree with that too much. I think it's just different. It's not trying to make it corporate.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's where I feel like it gets more into what culture just doing like their clickbait bullshit. And that's one I don't agree with. Like some of their points are good, and then there's stuff like this where I was just like, oh, you need 10 and you couldn't think of 10, so you decided to put this one on. And it's like, that's the whole point of AEW, is it's not supposed to be WWE. And I mean, I really don't get what they were trying to get at with that. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah, skipping through to a few, like number 5 is storytelling, which besides not having enough time for, I think, the end of this one, the Dustin Cody match I thought was a great storytelling. So I don't know if I agree with that one either.
Yeah, right. And it's still way too early for that too. Like, I mean, they're doing a good job with utilizing YouTube and whatnot with trying to figure out what the story is behind it. I don't know. That was another one that I just was kind of like, okay, whatever, guys.
Number 3, they have production problems, which again, I feel like that the reason they had these 2 pay-per-views was we want a free opportunity for people to see this and also to kind of work through the kinks and everything before we do a live show. Like if they were trying to do a live show like this month, I feel like they'd be way over their heads. But they've done 2 that were really good, I think, or actually 3 that I think were really good. They'll be all ready for All Out, and then they'll have 4 full-length pay-per-views under their belt ready for their Wednesday Night Dynamite or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 2 is commentary. I don't think I really buy in that as well.
No, I don't either. I mean, yeah, the first show, the commentary was a little off, but I after that, I don't think it's that off. And they kind of say that the one guy, and I'm totally blanking on his name, he's not really a wrestling commentator. But that dude picked it up so fast. Like, they were like, oh, he's not really good. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I was very impressed with what he could do with what little time he was given to do stuff. He's a professional is what he is. He's a professional commentator, and he took wrestling, and he's doing a good job with it. Well,
I mean, like Tony Schiavone, he does baseball and everything too. So if you have those skills, you can apply them anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last one was that the shows were dragging, in which we talked. This show I don't felt dragged. It was just really long, and I just think it's just probably trying to get people experience as much as they can. So if you drop 2 matches off this card, it might have been a little bit more like maybe that Sonny Kiss Peter Avalon match, and I don't know what other one I'd probably drop off. Maybe the SCU one might have been one you could kind of pull away, even though I really liked it, but. Yeah, you already had SCU on all the other cards and the Lucha Brothers on all the other cards, so kind of pull them out to give everybody else a little bit more time on the card.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just from What Culture, so that's kind of all the news we have. So why don't we go to From the Stands, and we got some listener feedback. So it's Paik again, so it's Paik. So I'll read through a couple of his reviews. So the MJF, Sammy Guevara, Shawn Spears, Darby Allin, Jimmy Havoc, and Joey Janela 6-man tag said really good match that did exactly what it needed to do. Helped solidify Spears' heel position. I'm glad Havoc got more focus this match. But I'm a sucker for high flyers, so the highlights for me were easily Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. Both shined brightly this match. Allie versus Brandy Rhodes, he said, not amazing, not bad. Brandy making her place as the cheating heel is pretty fun, and it's setting up a possible Kong rivalry, which is well worth it. The three-way tag match, super fun match, incredible spots pulled off by all 3 teams, great debut by the Dark Order. And then Cena versus Kenny Omega, phenomenal match. Hard to believe this is the first time these 2 have ever been in the ring together. They put on a clinic for a picture-perfect wrestling match. Signature moves, big jumps, crazy spots, a slugfest, everything they needed to do. And for the main event, the Young Bucks versus Dustin Rhodes, he said, perfectly solid and entertaining match from beginning to end. Lots of great signature moves and spots and high-octane back and forth. These guys are all legends in the wrestling world, and it was a treat to see them face off. So, Paik,
awesome.
Thanks again, man. We really appreciate your feedback.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, and also I'm starting to get a little bit more feedback. There's somebody who wants to challenge Wisecrack for the PodRockers title, so I'll have to process that and get it in. But if you want to send us your audio as well, to send us your promo, feel free to send it to us at PodRockers@BELitePod.com. You just record your voice on your phone or anywhere you can, send it to us, and we'll throw it on our episode. All right, Party Johnnetty, what do we have coming up next?
So for our next episode, we will be bringing you an AEW house show wrestler spotlight on Kenny Omega.
Ah, yes. I'm excited about that one. I've been starting to get back into watching the earlier Be the Elite YouTube videos and seeing some of the ones where he's just on his own. It's like the G1 climax, right?
Yes.
Seeing it through that,
yes.
He's like a dude that I wish he could be one of my best friends. He just seems super down to earth and cool.
Oh, I know. I can't wait to do this one.
All right, well, PodRocker Nation, you can reach out to BEP by following us on Twitter at BElitePod and Instagram at BElitePodcast. You can email us questions, comments, or those lovely, lovely promos to PodRockers@BeElite.com. If you have any thoughts on Kenny Omega, send us those in and we'll put you on that AEW Spotlight episode. And you can also like us on Facebook by searching for BElitePod.
And like Fight for the Fallen, we are desperately out of time for this week's Be Elite Pod. So until next week, I'm Party Johnnetty.
And I'm Shawn Michaels saying, I don't need a partner. I don't need a friend. I need my older brother. And saying so long from our BEP Home Elite Studios.
And remember, get off the street and be elite.